Alright, Shalom. First, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles of the great millstone that rule well, that taught us truth, and blessings to the elect of the nation of Israel. This is Brother Yakal coming with another lesson, and Lord willing, it'll be edifying. And today's lesson is about this video. I'm going to play it because they're not really hiding that they worship Satan. You know, they're not hiding. I mean, it's always been there if you had the spiritual eye. But they're out in the open. And we know that America in the Bible is called Babylon the Great, which is the revival, all right, of the Roman Empire, all right, because the Roman Empire was the fourth beast, all right. You go to Daniel 7:7, it says, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, all right, and strong exceedingly. And that was talking about them. The Roman Empire had military might. It will continue to say, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and break into pieces. That's their military. And stamped the residue, all right, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. Okay. So the Roman Empire was ruled by who? Edomites, so-called white people. And their blessing is the sword. All right, we'll get that in a minute. Okay, that's why it talks about their iron teeth, because no other empire ruled so dominantly and cruelly as the Roman Empire did. All right, that's why it said it devoured in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. You know, because Esau's blessing was the sword. And when it says diverse from all the other beasts before it, all right, it's because with the other empires, you know, you had like the Babylonians, the Medo-Persian Empire, and so forth. They had kings, and then the king will die, and then the son will take rule. You know, it'll be like a dynasty, you know, kind of thing. You know, I'm in power, then I pass it down to my son, and then, you know, and so forth. But in the Roman Empire, it was the Senate, you know, that really came together to vote for a leader that would be in power. So that's why it's diverse, all right, from than all the other beasts, all right. And one of the main points I'm trying to make is that when you look at the Roman Empire, all right, and you look at America, they're more of the same, because America is a revival of the Roman Empire, all right. And it goes on to say here, Daniel 7:8, and I considered the horns, and Salakia, let me go back here, all right. And when it said 10 horns, it's talking about in Daniel 7:7, and it's talking about 10 horns. That's talking about the territories that the Roman Empire took over and conquered, man. You know, they conquered different people, like many of the what's it called? They call the Germanic tribes, all right, you know, and other areas that were in Europe, and they made them client states, which today we will call them vassal states, but back in that time they called it client states, all right. And the 10, I've got it here actually, because there's so many of them. I wrote it down. Let me see here. Yeah, they got the 10 horns, which was the 10 areas that they ruled. And these areas had to pay, you know, these people had to pay tribute to the Roman Empire as well, you know. All right. And the only reason why that happened is because of their military might. Okay. So the 10 horns is like you go to the Angles, who are in what we call today the UK. Then you had the Franks, the Alunami, the Lombards, Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Burgundians, the Vandals, the Suevi, and the Heruli. All right, those are the 10 horns, the 10 areas that the Roman Empire conquered. All right, when it was in the height of its power. Okay, you know, but let's read on in verse 8. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up from among them another little horn, all right, and that little horn is America, all right. Okay, because America exhibits all of the you got a Congress, you got a Senate there. You know, they have statues of Roman gods, Egyptian gods. You know, and we know that the Romans, when the Romans conquered Egypt, they were fascinated with the Egyptian gods. So there's nothing new under the sun. That's why, what's it called? America's spiritually Sodom and spiritually Egypt. Because just like the Roman Empire, they venerate those gods, those Egyptian gods. All right, so this little horn is America, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. All right, and that's talking about the British, the French, and the Spanish. All right, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. And that's what this devil is doing. He's speaking great words against the Most High. He's trying to do transhumanism. He's doing everything. He's doing everything in his power to try and exalt him as a god. And when he promotes all these agendas, these philosophies, all right, people get drunk off these philosophies, and many of our people have got drunk of the philosophies of this devil. All right, speaking great things, and the great things is against the Heavenly Father. All right, so Rome was revived. Okay, like you go to Revelations 20. All right, Rome fell. All right, but it came back into power, man. All right, and when you go to Revelations 20, it tells you about when the Roman Empire fell and we took over, from verse 1 to 3. All right, which the scholars call it the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages. All right, when we had knights, when we had the Roman Catholic Church established, the Church of England, the Byzantine Empire, and so forth. All right. But when we fell, all right, who came back into power? Esau did. All right, Esau came back into power. All right, Revelations 20 and 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, all right, because they fell and we took over and we ruled you for 1,000 years. All right, the bottomless pit. It said Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. All right. Shall be loosed out of his prison. And Satan means what? Adversary. And that's the power source of these Edomites, man, in these secret societies. All right. Verse 8, and shall go out to deceive the nations. See? Deceive the nations, man. All right. Deception. Which are in the four corners of the earth. Gog and Magog, to gather them to the battle, the number of whom is of the sands of the sea. All right. So one of the purposes of him being in this period of time in power is for prophecy, but also, all right, him going out and deceiving the nations is making these other nations mad, and therefore it's gonna culminate into a third world war, and that's why it said Gog and Magog to gather into battle, and we know that Magog is Russia. All right. So Russia is going to and other nations are going to help to destroy America, Babylon the Great. All right, and it needs to be destroyed because just like the Roman Empire, all right, the Roman Empire worshipped multiple plethora of gods. They had something called a pantheon. All right, I'll just read you a little bit here. I'm going to show you this clip that they've got a satanic statue over there in Minnesota. And it's not a coincidence that it's in Minnesota, where you have the ICE agents going around stopping people. There was one, a Jake that was stopped in his car, and they tried to grab him out of his car. And then he started having a fit in front of his child, And at the same time, they've killed a couple of people, a couple of Edomites. And then at the same time, they're venerating a satanic statue. But what does that remind you of? It reminds you of the Roman Empire, because they had this bullshit complex called the Pantheon. I'll read a little bit of it here. All right, the Roman pantheon was a complex system of deities heavily influenced by Greek mythology. And who are the Greeks? Edomites, with 12 main gods. All right, so they had a pantheon where they worshipped these gods. They had statues to them and so forth. You know, Jupiter, which is Zeus, Juno, which is Hera, Minerva, Neptune, Venus, Mars, Apollo, Diana, Vulcan, Vestia, all right, god of health and home and family, Mercury, Hermes, commerce, travelers, messengers, and isn't there a there's a delivery company called Hermes, man. All right, which is now see, look, welcome to Hermes. You see, when you look at these companies, all right, and they're all Edomite companies, they've got names that go back to the Roman gods, man. Hermes, okay, all right, Hermes, and Hermes is what? The god of Mercury, which is a god of what? Commerce, travelers, and messenger. And hence why you've got a company, Hermes, that delivers parcels and things like that. Okay? So this is just Rome all over again. Alright, now watch this clip. Alright, I'll play it and we come back.
The Minnesota State Capitol. I am on the ground floor, and as I was leaving my committee meeting today here earlier, I noticed that there is a new display here at the State Capitol, and it's for Governor Walz. It's right here on display. So let me see. I mean, I guess I can't flip my phone, but I'll see if I can show it to you. So this is what we have here, everyone. Let me read it to you. The Democratic Coalition of Satan Worshippers thanks Governor Tim Walz for not standing in the way of spreading Satanism in the state capitol building. Satan has a special place for you. That's right, everyone. So the Democratic Coalition of Satan Worshippers, they have given some sort of plaque here to Governor Tim Walz. So let me be the first, I guess, to congratulate Governor Tim Walz for this very special award that has come from the Satan worshippers here in the Minnesota State Capitol. Yes, everyone, this is true. I am live, not making this up. You can't make this up. I don't know what else to say. I would think if you're Governor Tim Walz, you could choose not to have up this plaque. I don't know why a governor of a state would want this plaque, but there it is. Let me show you. Here we are, live at the state capitol, and the Satan worshipers have thanked Governor Tim Walz. And let me repeat this. The last line says, Satan has a special place for you. I'm speechless.
Find UK property.
See, they're not even hiding it. They're not hiding it anymore. They're doing exactly what the Romans did. You know, the Romans openly worshipped these pagan gods and so forth. Let's continue.
Capitol.
A satanic display is raising eyebrows, but the governor says he can't take it down. The group of Minnesota Satanists put up its first ever holiday display at the Capitol over the weekend. They say its members don't actually worship Satan or believe in Satan, but called the display a win for religious plurality. First ever holiday display.
Look at that. See, look, Minnesota Satanists. You know, look at this, man. This is the mass of the phoenix. Mass means what? Death. All right. And look at the writing here. So this is, they're not hiding it anymore. Now, this guy basically said, this governor, And remember, this is in Minnesota where all the ICE stuff is happening, that he had nothing to do with it. All right, let's keep playing it.
At the Capitol over the weekend. They say its members don't actually worship Satan or believe in Satan, but called the display a win for religious plurality. Republicans blame the governor for letting it go up. Representative Tom Emmer tweeted, "Is there anything Tim Walz won't do to insult Minnesotans?" Representative Pete Sauber said, "When you get a DFL trifecta, you get a satanic display at our state capitol. During the holidays, what a disgrace. Only in Walz's Minnesota."
New tonight, a satanic holiday display at the state capitol has a lot of people talking. The group behind it says it's all about the First Amendment and bringing joy to the community.
But others say that it's downright offensive.
Inside the Minnesota State Capitol, just across the hall from the Christmas tree, you'll find this phoenix made out of paper. The elaborate display features a hanging pentagram and several small cranes. A group called Minnesota Satanists put it up, and not everyone's happy about it.
The message that they're sending is quite literally to hell with the sacred.
Republican State Representative Walter Hudson finds the whole thing offensive, especially during the holidays.
You have a intentionally profane display, very obviously intended to thumb a nose at those of us who are celebrating our holiest days.
But Hudson isn't alone. Republican Congressman Tom Emmer asked on social media, is there anything Tim Walz won't do to insult Minnesotans? But Governor Walz has nothing to do with it. Fox 9 obtained the application for the display from the Minnesota Department of Administration. That agency, not the governor, approved it. The governor's office sent us a statement saying he does not agree with the display and did not approve it, but the First Amendment means that he does not police speech in the state capitol.
If there isn't a standard by which to determine what is good and what is bad, then there's no point in us being there.
Hey, you see? So they're doing exactly, they're not hiding it anymore, man. They're doing exactly what these ancient Romans used to do in this pantheon. You're just displaying their bullshit beliefs outwardly. Okay? You know? They're doing exactly what the scriptures said that they would do. Alright? And that's why this whole system has to be destroyed, because it's just there to corrupt. Alright? So it doesn't matter whether it's Republicans or Democrats, man. Alright, this scripture goes into that because he's a so-called Democrat, you know, and he said, oh, yeah, I had nothing to do with it. Yeah, but it's in your state, because both sides, whether it be Republicans or Democrats, just like back in the day with the Romans, they had the plebeians and the patricians. Alright, both sides have nothing good for you. Their aim is to destroy you, man, to have this new world order. All right, they make out like they want to help you, but they're not going to help you. All right, this is Revelations 13 and 11. And I held another beast coming out of the earth. All right, and that's the revival of this Roman system. You know, America's that great whore. You know, that rides this this system, the 7 heads, 10 horns. You know, which today is the EU. All right, it started as the ECC. Okay, so that's why it said, I beheld another beast coming out of the earth. All right, because we had the Roman Empire, that was the 4th beast, but this is another beast. All right, which is America, that little horn that we spoke about in Daniel. All right, coming up out of the earth. And it had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. All right, and that the 2 horns represent what? The 2 political party systems, the Republicans and the Democrats. All right, and it says like a lamb. You know, they act like they're trying to help you, and they're there to help you and be for the people, but really they do what? And he spake as a dragon. All right. Okay, a dragon, man. You know, draconian measures. They're gonna change laws. You know, if you don't comply with this system. If you don't get the chip, you know, the MOTB, you won't be able to buy and sell. You won't be able to go to the hospital, this, that, and the other. They're putting, it doesn't matter whether it's Republicans or Democrats, they're putting laws in place. Trump's big, beautiful bill and all this stuff. You know, they're both working together to complete this New World Order. So the two horns are like lambs where, you know, they're supposed to try to help you. But really, they speak as a dragon. The dragon is a fierce animal. And it destroys you. Alright? And we know that dragon, alright, the Roman Empire was described as a dragon. Alright? When you go to Revelations 12. Alright? And it said red dragon, you know, and it talks about, you know, trying to devour the child. And who was that? Yahushua. Okay, so both of these parties, all right, are not for you. All right, so there are no heroes in politics. All right, that's the reason why you have politicians like over here. We have more or less the same thing, a two-party system. Conservatives and a Labour Party, and they're both as bad as each other, man. All right, they're both as bad as each other. All right, verse 12, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, which was the Roman Empire. All right, and causeth the earth and them which dwell upon the earth, them which dwell therein, to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And who was that? The Roman Empire. All right.